Yo, my name is Marquise, and this is episode 1 of the podcast Mindful Masculinity, where the goal is to focus on growth spiritually, emotionally, um, physically, um, but just taking back our power and uh, figuring out how we do that, whether it's through relationships, um, through emotional downfalls, things we've been through. I like to consider myself very blessed in the way that I've been able to go through things and then self-reflect and kind of learn from them. Uh, versus in some cases, some people go through things and then blame, or go through things and then point the finger and don't find the lesson or value in it, and then they turn around and end up going through the same thing over and over. And so just kind of talking about it, everything we go through, we have part in. Um, we have part in the choice that got us there. We have part in the decision that put us in that particular um, situation. You have, whether you made the decision or not made a decision, you have part in why whatever's going on is going on in most cases. And it's not to say that it's your fault, but it is to say that if you look at yourself, then there is opportunity for growth. I believe that when you're looking at other people, when you're focusing on what they did or how they did you or what they did, or any of those things, or why the boss treated you that way, what ends up happening is you take the focus off yourself, and you end up discrediting um, the opportunity to be educated, right? Because in that situation, if you look within, look at yourself, what will happen is you 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 have a chance to grow. And what I mean by that is, um, in a relationship, if something goes wrong, right? There's a breakup, or um, things didn't work out the way you wanted to, and in that you have a conversation about, you and your friend have a conversation about why it happened, and in that conversation, all you can say is, she did, he did, they did, and it's not, well, I could have done this differently. I could have, treated her better. I could have took her out on more dates. And I'm saying that because I'm a man. I can't really speak from the other side, but you could have said I could have been nicer to him, or I could have been more kind or talked sweeter to him. Um, but again, if it's all about what the other person did, or what what something outside of yourself, the influence is, a lot of times, like I say, it takes away from the value of what you could have learned. And then you go on in your life and you look years down the road, and you end up going through the same thing over and over again. Over and over. The test just keeps repeating because there is no self reflection. But the moment you start to look within and say, well, I could have did this better. I could have did this different. The next time that situation comes about or comes around, you've already planted the seed in your head that you could have did something differently. Therefore, you've already, you know, are proactive about the next time it comes up, I might move a little different. Or the next time I'm in a relationship, I might talk a little sweeter. Or the next time I'm in a relationship, I might not raise my voice. Because what it all comes down to is if you don't look within, then where do you go, right? And how do you stop these situations from kind of repeating themselves? And the answer is you don't. You literally don't until you start pointing the finger at everybody else and start to look at yourself. Um, and that kind of goes into, you know, knowing that maybe the situation is you should have boundaries, right? Maybe the situation is um, you knew something was bothering you that you didn't speak up about, and because you didn't speak up about it, now that same thing repeats itself, right? I can always speak to my situations, because I've been through them. And for an example, me and my wife met. I came from more of a toxic upbringing, a toxic background where, we handle conflict like We yelled and yelled and yelled until we got tired of yelling, and then we eventually we let it go. And we when we seen each other again or in an hour or so, we act like it didn't matter or it didn't happen. And my wife early on she said, "Well, that don't work for me." And if she never said that, I think what would have happened is that would have repeated itself, which would have caused her to be in a space where she couldn't feel safe or she couldn't feel secure, and um, then she would have been unhappy. The relationship could have been in a much worse place than it is now. And I will say that we're in a pretty good space in our relationship. But that's just a small example of if she had never spoken up and said, "Hey, you raising your voice at me doesn't work for me." And then I had to also, on my part, say, "I understand where you're coming from. Um, Let me work on it." And it took years for me to get better at it because I had been doing it for 30 plus years to say, okay, this part I need to do better. And because I was able to take responsibility for my actions, ultimately it grew the relationship. But again, if she never said anything or said in it or let it go by, what might have happened or what probably would have happened or what happens in most relationships is that thing repeats itself till somebody feels uncomfortable and then it breaks. And the thing is, if you don't stand up for something within your relationship, it ultimately it breaks, right? If as a man you need more affection and you don't express I need more affection, some dudes do a lot with that, whether they go out and step on somebody else's toes by cheating around or walking around. That could have been avoided by simply saying, "Hey, baby, I need more affection, or I need more love, or I need more attention." But a lot of times men have pride in their relationship as well. So that's just a small example that if you don't stand up for something or if you don't look within yourself and say, maybe I should have set boundaries. Maybe I should have been, like I said, nicer or sweeter or kinder. All you're doing is pointing the finger because, again, if I, in response to that, say, well, you did this and you did that and you did this and that's why I'm yelling, what would have happened is um, the relationship could have never grown because I would have kept I would have kept pointing the finger at her and not looking within myself. See the opportunity there. Look at yourself and find out why, you're making the decisions. I'm a huge advocate for therapy. I think that every human being needs therapy. We all go through things, they're different, but our life kind of puts a limit or a field around what we experience. So what one person experiences is hard, the other person may not. So I'm a big advocate for, therapy, going to talk to somebody about your issues, talking it out. Big advocate for marriage therapy, counseling, whatever. Talk to somebody. Um, and then, like I said, just look at yourself, right? You look at 2024 and ask yourself, what could I have done better? For me, one of these things was people have been saying, start a podcast, and I've kind of put it off and put it off and put it off until this year. So, as I encourage you guys to go through and self-reflect and look at some of the things that you're going through and look at yourself in those things and ask yourself, how did I get here? And then don't get stuck in the problem. Don't get stuck in the why this happened. Start to focus on the solution, create some momentum, and help that so that pushes you into the next level. Fixing your credit, fixing your relationships, fixing your happiness, finding some peace. All those things start within you. So again, I encourage you to self-reflect, write it down, look within, find out why. And as you do that, I'm also going to be taking my own advice and doing it as well. But that's going to be it for the first episode, and I hope you guys enjoy. Like, subscribe, ask questions. I have a lot of insight. Uh, really, really, really want to help people. So um, share this with your friend, share this with somebody. But at the end of the day, my goal is to be helpful. So with that being said, y'all have a good day. God bless. Be safe.